Okay, episode 2. So the first thing that I'm going to do, just continuing from the last video, this wasn't working before, and we were doing ring selection. And just while I turned the video off, I just went on to Google and figured it out. And that's probably one of the best things I can ever teach you. If you don't know how to do something, go on to Google and ask. So, edit, select regions. And there must be some shortcut that changes this, because it just happens to me every now and then. Something that I'm bumping, and maybe you guys are doing it as well. Just change that to crossing. And now, anything my selection bar crosses over doesn't have to go over it to select it. It just needs to cross it. So again, if it's on window, that won't work. You have to select the whole edge. But then you end up getting extra things. So, selection region, crossing. That's the preferred way, I think, that most people like, especially for making ring selections. So then you can see selecting everything. Right, so what's the next step we're on? Select 5 then. Done that. Select the top edge and get along the edge. Right then. Okay. So we're on this bit. We've beveled this out, and we're selecting this edge, and we're moving this into place along the x-axis only and the z and x-axis only. So remember, if you drag it here and start moving things around, you can start like really messing up the shape of stuff. Drag here, you know that you're only moving it along 2 axes, and if you drag it here, so you can see what the yellow thing that's highlighting, you know. So if I do that, it's going to go over there. Yeah, it's hard to represent in the perspective viewport, but this is why I like having these 3 over here. You can kind of see if you're breaking stuff. And if you keep your eye out as well, it helps you notice when you're, when you've maybe say you've dragged a selection, and then if you just start moving something around, right? I can't see that over there. Well, I can kind of see it here, but if it was like right on the other side of a mesh and I started seeing something extra moving on this part of the screen as well, I can kind of see like this line is messed up. So and that's what X-ray mode is good for as well. Right, so yeah, we want to just move this along the X and Z axis and kind of make, then push the bottom in. Right, there we go. And select the, turn this down a little bit. It's gotten a little obnoxious. Skip that. In fact, actually, if I just change this, desktop audio. Now, I don't think you can hear it. Yeah, there we go. So now I can hear it and you can't. There we go. So now you can put on your own music. Right then. Distracted. Probably distracting you as well. So right, let's just go back and recover that because it was a bit broken up. So that's what we've got to. I'm just going to move this along the Z and X, just referring to the image that I've got in a tutorial over here. and then push this in as well. And I'm actually just going to push this one in as well. So something like that. We got this box, and then I've done that thing with the weird shaped quads. So this is another thing that you can do. So I'm going to click this face and click make planar over here. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing to that one as well. So click this place, make planar, and then do it to that one as well because it kind of messes that one up. And that one as well. There you go. So what that does is literally makes it planar, that face. And you can, you just select that and it just tries to make it so when quads are broken, just flattens them out. Or you can do it to groups. So say if, you know, when I align these along the X, these are now a planar surface. So that's another thing that it's good for. Right then, so we're gonna now move on to the next step. So we're gonna inset this bottom face by 5 centimeters. And inset top faces. Now if it looks like that and not like that, make sure you're doing it by group, okay? Not by polygon, because that's just the same as doing it separately. We want to do it as a group. And that by 5 centimeters as well. And you can see here, it's kind of like, because it's tried to do it averaged out the way that they're insetting, it's kind of messed up the shape a little bit. So what I'm going to do, double click this edge. So when I click it once and then double click it, it gets the whole loop. And obviously it doesn't go along because it doesn't loop anymore. And I'm going to align it by the X, and so that aligned it that way, but now I want to align it also by the Z. Just make planar doesn't really work. It's a funny one. Make planar is sometimes it does what you want it to do. But yeah, Z and X will do it. If I did it by Y, it'd smush them all together. Now we got that looking the way it should do. We're gonna extrude these faces with a negative value. .5. Okay. And again, make sure you've got the right setting. I want it by local normal, not by polygon, and not by group, because then it starts to like cut in really strangely. But by like local normal, again, just pushes it in. By the face is local normal, so the normal is the direction that the face is pointing at. And then, so yeah, we've got again some weird looking faces here that you might need to just press make planar on. Lost it. There we go. And then yeah, it kind of hasn't done it quite straight. I say in the text document, just watch what I do here. So what I'm going to try and do is line that by Y. No, that's no good. No, we don't want to do that. I'm just going to select this face and this face. This will be the easiest thing to do. Just scale it in just a little bit. pull it up a little bit. Just move it, just so it just looks a little bit better. And then I'm just going to pull these two in just slightly. So R to get the scale. I think that's alright. Okay. Again, it's a little bit broken there, but sometimes it's just a case of like making real tiny tweaks. Don't make a huge difference, but when you do it enough on an entire model, it helps bump up the quality. Now that one's done. This one's nice and easy. Just -5. Jump cut. Alright, so carrying on. Shift and use Y scale. Just clone this object. Okay, don't clone to element. Clone to object. And we're going to name this Grates. Okay, so now up here we've got a separate object to be able to select and work on. So what we're going to do next is if I select this mesh first, make it X-ray mode, Alt and X. So now I can see through it a bit easier. Now I select the top and bottom edges of the Grates mesh. And we're going to connect this with 10. With 0 pinch and 0 slide. Say OK. On faces. And we're just going to deselect these 5. So that's Alt and click to deselect. And delete them. Then I'm going to go into vertex mode and press Ctrl A. Or you could select all of these faces and hold down Ctrl and click vertex. And it does the same thing. Now what we're going to do is scale along the Y. Just so they're kind of evenly spaced. So gap, great, gap, great. And now we can select these faces again and extrude them by 4 centimeters. Yep. And now I'm going to just drag a box over this because we've got these faces here that we don't want. So what I'm going to do is drag a box over these, over boxes that we can see, over faces that we can see. I'm going to press Ctrl I to invert the selection, and again delete. So now there's no unneeded faces, unneeded topology on the Grate mesh. It's just 1, 2, and 3. There's nothing on the back here either. Right then, so next part is the tank track. Deselect this, Z to frame up. And I'm going to use a cylinder. I'm going to draw it out in the left viewport. If you've got your setup like mine, that's in here. Or you can just press L to go into the left viewport if you're working in Alt W mode, full screen. And then P to go back. But yeah, I'm just going to drag out the left viewport. Again, doesn't matter because I tell you the settings that we're going to put into this. So we go into edit now. And we've got that. And the reason that we draw it out in the particular viewport is because the radius and the height are dependent on the viewport that it was created. So now the height is on the x-axis, whereas if I'd drawn it out on the floor in perspective of the top, height would be up and down. And if done it in the front viewport, it'd be along the y-axis. So the settings say 50 centimeters in a radius, 45 in a height, 1 segment, 1 cap, and 10 sides. And where are we putting it? Looks like 152.5. Minus 1.5 on the y. And 50 on a z. Right then. Oh, not right. Okay. 175 here. That's why. Read it wrong. There we go. So now that's nicely inset in here. And this needs to be 140. 140 in the y. I was reading a step ahead. There we go. There we go. Yes. Alright, so I'll make sure that's a bit clearer to see in the written documentation for when you guys have it. Right, so select and move left half vertices and change the y-axis to minus 145. That's where I got 145 for. So, right click, convert to edit poly. I'm going to select all of these. So again, if I make that see-through, Alt and X, so I've dragged the selection over all of these, okay, so you can see. And I'm just going to write minus 145, is that correct? No, wrong axis. There you go. What is it? Oh, Y, right. Minus 14. There we go. All right. And now I'm going to select both outward facing side faces and inset them by 10 centimeters. Okay. And now each of these new faces, extrude by minus 10 centimeters. Right. Select all but the two end faces of the bottom of the track cover mesh and move them down in the Z to 40 centimeters. Right, and so this is the track cover mesh. We named it track cover. Let's make this see-through now, and this not see-through. So, in the picture, but there you go. All of these, and we're going to move them down in a Z to 40 centimeters. There we go, like that. Easy enough. Draw a new box out in the top viewport. So this is the top viewport. Again, if you're working in Alt W mode, just press T and then P to go back, so you can draw it out in the top viewport. Doesn't matter where we put it. Put it over there, and you can see I'm changing the height here. I'm gonna click here. If we go back to P, that's what we made, and let's go fix it. So 325. No. 325. 125. 50. There we go. Getting a bit close. Got no length segments, width segments, or height segments. And we're going to just click move and type into here 62.5. Okay. And you can see it moving into place along here as well. Minus 12.5. That's minus 62.5 there. And then 50 in the Z. Okay, now you can see it's nicely aligned with the track cover. Oops. We're going to apply and edit poly. And delete this face. Deleting this face because this is going to be the middle of the tank. We're going to use symmetry later to copy all of this over and just mirror it on the other side, so we only have to model half the tank. We're going to ring select. So again, drag box or click and ring. Okay. Connect using two edges. So connect, two edges, 45 pinch. And 0 slide. Okay. And erase this face. 218. Ring select. Connect. One new edge this time. 0 pinch. The slide. 35. Now we've got some extra edges to work with. And then we're going to raise this face to 130. There we go. Now we got like the back of the tank rising up where the turret's going to sit, and then the front. If we were to refer back to the concept, you start to see that shape coming together. So we want to move this edge to 62.5, 80 on a Y, and 122. There we go. And then this one, 90 in the Z. There we go. Select all the faces. Do that with Control A or drag box over everything. And we're just going to apply. So smoothing groups, if I apply just one smoothing group to it, it tries to smooth all the faces together and it looks like this. Alright? But we don't want that. We want it to look like it's got hard edges. Right? So we want it to have a smoothing group per face. Auto smooth does this by the degree of the face. Like, so if I did it at 45, these would get smoothed together because they're less than a 45-degree difference between the faces that are connecting. But then this one's a hard edge because it's over 45. It's a 90-degree one. So if I change this to 1, select all the faces and auto smooth. Now any face which is less than 1 degree will be smoothed. Which basically, I mean, less than 1 degree is basically flat. But anything a greater difference than 1 degree will now have its own smoothing group, and we get these hard edges applied to our mesh all the way around. And this is generally how you do a lot of smoothing and circular looking things with low geometry. So this, when you look at it from this angle, it's hard edged, but when you look at it from here, because we use a cylinder, or a smoothing is applied on it automatically, and so it looks like it's going around smoothly. So let's ring select the back edges. See there? And we're going to connect these with just default 1. Okay. And shift with face selected, this face, on a Z, move it up a little bit, and call it vent. Okay. Now we got another new object here. Okay. And now, because I just wanted that edging to be able to get this one face, so we're gonna, while this is still selected, if you've deselected it, just double click and it will get the loop. And you can either press Control and remove, and it deletes it. You can press Control and backspace, and it deletes it. And if I go back to vertex mode, you can see, because I've used Control when I pressed backspace or remove, no vertices are left behind. But if I just click remove and then go back to vertex mode, it leaves the verts in. We don't want that because we've just created n-gons now. So that's why you press Control. There you go. And there you can see now it's clean. So now select the back vent mesh and move this down back in line with here, which is, I believe, 107.5. Oh. Right. Because I've moved the whole mesh based off its axis. What we need to do is select the face and move this down, local in the world. 107.5. So yeah, don't just click it in create, you need to go into edit poly mode and select the actual face itself and move it down. And now we've got that, select that face and bevel up. 12.5 and -5. There you go. And set this top face by 3 centimeters. Extrude this new face by -5. And there you go. So we've now got a vent coming out the back. We're going to add some of the smaller details now on the front of the tank. So go back to the tank body. And I've just noticed I haven't named this. It's always a good habit to be in, to name your meshes, rather than having cylinder 1 and box 1. Okay, so now I do want the tank body, and I'm going to use the shift and scaling technique to copy out this face again. So I'm just going to hold down shift, scale it in along the X, copy this out and just call it front detail. There we go. I'm going to click front detail now, and using the move tool, I'm going to hold down shift and I'm going to drag out a new edge, and what that's doing is just creating a new face pulling out from that edge. And I'm just going to drag it out, and then I'm going to right click on here just to align it onto the center of a world, so 0, 0, so it's right in line with here. Now I've got that, I'm going to select that new face that I've created, and I'm going to look for detach over here in edit geometry, attach that, and front bumper. Cool. So select front bumper. And we're going to do a new thing here now. We're going to enable constraints. And what constraints do is tries to keep a surface either keep a face the same size, keep something moving along its normal, which is the direction that it's facing, or stop edges from changing the direction that they were going. So if I have edge constraints on, don't need that one. Why have I lost a bit? There we go. So I've got edge constraints on, and now when I start moving it along the wall, you'd expect it to start going along here and cutting through. What it's going to do is slide along now, here, along the edge direction. So what I'm going to do is select the vertices and just pull these down a little bit. Could have done it in edge mode as well. And I can turn the constraint off now, I think. Yeah. That's all I needed to do. Just move this down a little bit. And I'm just going to extrude this. Doesn't really matter by what amount. Because what I'm going to do is just move this into sort of, don't really know, chopped off pyramid sort of shape. Yeah, just an angular rectangle sort of hump on the front. And then I'm going to select these faces, and I did that before, just using the Z and Y axes. Don't move it along the X, else you'll start moving it over like that, and we don't want that. So now we can inset. We want to inset all three of these faces by 3 centimeters. And insert the face and extrude it by -1. There we go. And just need to make sure we're doing it with the right settings, but not by group, by local normal. Okay. And again, so that's by polygon, that's wrong. By group, that's wrong. By local normal. And we're going to do another new thing with this. Okay, we want this directly in the center of the tank, so we're going to affect the pivot only. Okay, and that means that now we're not moving the mesh, we're moving the pivot point. We're just going to center to object. Now it's in the middle of this mesh. And then we can go turn that off, go back to here, so we're just moving the mesh again. And you can just right click on the X and it moves it into the middle. So now that's directly in the middle of the tank. So when we put symmetry on, it'll keep that in place and we won't have two. Okay, so I'm just going to end this video here and then chop together those 2 bits and then start episode 3.